Hi, my name is Catherine Roseland with Board Game Geek TV here at Spiel 2013. I am joined by Peter Hawes with KL Games, and we're here to talk about Francis Drake.
Okay.
A lot of buzz for this one.
Yes. Well, Francis Drake is the second in the series of the big box games that KL Games is doing in conjunction with Eagle Games. We've teamed up with Eagle because they're very good at doing big games, and Eagle will be distributing these games throughout the world for me. Okay, Francis Drake. Firstly, I love games about history. My previous game was Wars of the Roses.
Oh.
Now this one's about Francis Drake. The 16th century was just a fascinating period in history. Columbus just discovered the New World, the Aztec Empire, the Incan Empire.
A lot going on.
It gave Spain this enormous empire full of jewels and gold and silver. But they had a problem getting it back to Spain because the other European countries were very jealous, and they looked with the greedy eyes on the Spanish main and said, we want a piece of the action.
Yes, exactly.
So all of a sudden you had all these fellows such as Drake, and Drake was probably the most famous of them all, European privateers who wanted to challenge Spain for their monopoly on the New World. So Drake, in 3 famous voyages, he looted, plundered and ran rampant across the Caribbean, struck fear into the heart of all Spaniards, such that when the treasure fleet was due home every year, the people back in Spain would all be praying that the ship arrived home safely, because Spain became so dependent on this enormous wealth to to pay their debts and to just keep the country going.
Yeah.
So it was very crucial that the big Spanish convoys got back. So I've tried to reproduce as much of that as I could into this game. You know, places like Veracruz, Cartagena, Panama, Portobello, they became famous all over Europe at the time. Repositories from floor to ceiling full of gold and silver. So you can imagine any young aspiring pirate, he just thought about adventure on the high seas, going to the Caribbean and
picking and choosing.
Rumors of silver and gold lying around on the ground and having to be picked up and taken home, and going home with a galleon full of treasure worth a king's ransom. So into that world stepped Francis Drake. So we're going to emulate what he did. In this game you'll have 3 voyages out to the Spanish main. Mm-hmm. Now because it's historical, it did affect how I had to design the game. There couldn't be any engine building in this game. You can't carry anything over because it was 5, 8 and 10 years between his 3 respective voyages. So it just wasn't thematic having goods and your crew just sitting in the harbour and saying, bye boys, see you in 10 years time, I'll be back.
Yeah, exactly.
So the game meant that we had to have a very tight provisioning phase where you just would get enough to get you through for that voyage and do the best you could with it. You certainly didn't say, well, I'll take 5 extra supply barrels and yeah, they'll be good in 10 years when we do our next trip.
No,
so,
exactly.
Now, how is this different from other worker placement games? It's worker placement for the first half, but then the second half is the sailing phase, which brings in a whole new set of skills.
So it's 2 completely different.
It's 2 games in one.
Yes, exactly.
At the start we have Plymouth. This is where you're going to provision your ships. So you're going to go along a one-way street. Now, like other games, this sort of mechanic, once you pick an area, you must go forward on the next turn. Now it's always tempting to rush forward to one of the really great locations, but then you can't go back and claim what you've left behind.
You never get a chance to get that.
No, you can't go back. So you must choose carefully, and that's the wonderful part about the game. You're constantly thinking, do I take what's just nearby, or do I jump ahead to one of those really important locations on the board? The other way that this is different, it's a little bit of a race as well. You have to provision your ship, so you're going to need supply barrels, you're going to need guns, you're going to need crew, you're going to upgrade your ship to a bigger galleon. You need all these things. But if you spend all day doing that, you're going to be the last one to get over here to the outbound harbour, which will then mean that you'll be one of the last to sail out into the Caribbean.
And all the pickings will be gone.
All the pickings are gone. You arrive and the town's in flames and the treasure's gone.
Yeah.
So, yes, you need enough stuff, but you equally have to get over there and you have to be very aware of the sailing order. What else does it allow you to do? The game's a little different in that there's no set way of winning. The game doesn't force you to do certain things. It's not an engine, so you don't have to build up your ability to build guns or to make more crew, etc. You do what you want to do, which is what I like about this style of game. You can decide to do a barrel strategy. You'll collect enough supply barrels, stop the other players from getting enough, and then they can't sail over to, say, the 4th area on the board. Then you can sail with impunity. You can just do whatever you want and they can't get there. That's a barrel strategy. You might go after cannon. You get so many cannons that you can take on all the Spanish galleons. That's a nice strategy. You might do a trade goods strategy. So many different things to do. The game doesn't tell you what to do. You make your decision and you'll either win or lose accordingly. Okay, the second phase of the game. Now this is interesting because everyone has a set of these discs and they're numbered. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are your missions that you're going to perform. You're going to go to your first location, then your second, then your third, then your fourth. But they're placed face down, so nobody knows
where you're going
actually. Later on they'll be turned up and then you see. So in that placement phase, it's a case of do you take risks, do you push your luck, take on a fort that you may or may not have enough guns for. And that's the other thing we didn't mention. There's a lot of characters in this game. And these characters affect how those basic things that you need play out. If you haven't got enough guns, you can still get by taking the pinnace, the long rowboats that Drake thought were his most valuable cargo. They let you land behind the forts, come on, attack the fort without any guns. So you've mitigated your losses. They didn't get enough guns, but through the use of these longboats, you're able to perform a different strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
So you must constantly be thinking of new ways to achieve your aims, so the game keeps you on your toes. You don't just sit there and wait for your turn to come around. You are actually watching what everybody else is taking as they go down Plymouth Street. It's very important what they take. It'll affect what you do next.
There are only a limited amount of each of these, basically.
There's only a limited amount, yes. There's only one Golden Hind. That was Drake's flagship. If you get that, you get a whole extra mission out there, and you get to go first. Wonderful. The Queen, the Admiral and the Governor, they tell you about Spanish defences for the galleons and for the forts. Wonderful piece of information. So yeah, I've tried to design a historical game, lots of different things to do. You do what you want to do, and you see how successful you are at the end. You'll be rewarded by how well you do at attacking the Spanish and knocking off all the different things out there. If you can achieve a galleon, a fort, and a town, you'll get these extra 10 victory points, so that's something nice to go for. So there we are, another historical game, and hope everyone likes it.
Beautiful, and it sounds very interesting. Thank you.
Okay.
So that was Francis Drake with KL Games.
There it is.
Peter Haas. Thank you very much.
Thank you.